Hello, welcome to another video. As you can see, it's the most wonderful time of the year. So it was our last day of school this year and we had a get together and we're all supposed to dress up in costumes, and this was what I chose. My wife made me, give me a second. An elf. Okay, I was an elf and there was a Santa and it all worked out well. But we're here today to wrap up this topic, laws of exponents. And I have a bunch of questions I'm just going to solve. I'm not going to explain a lot, not no much talking, but just explain and see how well you understand the laws. I'll tell you what laws are relevant as I go, but it's going to be really quick. You ready for that? Let's do it. Welcome back. So here it is. I have 3 questions already on the board. I'm going to add more to it because I don't have enough space to put all the questions up. So let's start with the first one. The first one requires that we apply the laws of the product rule, which is you multiplying. So when you multiply a to the 1, remember this is a to the 1. So our answer is just going to be the addition of all of these. It's going to be a to the 1 plus 2 plus 3, and that's a to the 6. We're done with that. We go to the second one, it's negative 3 to the 4th. And you look at number 3, there are 2 questions, exactly the same numbers, but there's a parenthesis. So for this one, you're simply saying your answer is going to end up being negative, no matter what you do. So there's a negative sign to whatever answer you get. So what you're actually multiplying 4 times is the 3, but it's going to be raised to, it's going to be a negative number. So you can see this as if you're writing negative 1 multiplied by 3 to the power of 4. So your answer is going to be the same thing. If you decide to write the number, it's going to be negative 1 multiplied by 3 in 4 places. I mean 3 multiplied by itself 4 times. It's going to be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and that's 81. And then, so your final answer is going to be negative 81. That's how that works. However, in this case, you can break it up like this because everything is raised to power 4. So what you're actually doing is negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. So you're multiplying negative 3 by itself 4 times, and you end up with an answer that looks like this, but without the negative, because negative times negative is positive. So this, the first is going to give you 9. When you multiply this by 3 again, by negative 3 rather, your next answer is going to be, you see, you're going to get negative 27. And negative 27 times negative 3 is going to give you positive 81. So remember that whenever there's a parenthesis around the negative sign and it's raised to a power, you have to take the negative along. The simple rule is that if the exponent is an even number, your answer is going to change from negative to positive. But if the exponent was a negative, was an odd number, like a 3 or a 5 or a 7 or 1, it's going to remain negative. Okay? You can see that when we got to the third one, if we had stopped here, our final answer would have been negative 27, because that would have been 3, it would have been negative 3 to the 3rd power. So when you have the when you do it 3 times, you end up with the negative being retained. But if you go beyond the odd number and you add it, and you add one more step to an even number, or if you had stopped here, it would have been positive, because you went from 2 to 3, it became negative. And then if you go to the 4th one, which is also an even number, it turns into a positive. So remember, there's a difference between these two. I chose these questions so you know what to do about that. So I'm going to take this off the board. I guess you get it. Pause the video if you need to think about it. If you don't need to think about it, then you're in my world. Let's go. So, we'll put another set of questions on the board and we'll solve them. Let's do that. So here we have another set of questions on the board, and I'm going to start with the first one. We apply the same rules, the product rule, which means you just add the exponents. So this is going to be x to the power of 9 plus negative 7. Remember that. And this is what I tell my students. Some teachers prefer to put a parenthesis around the negative sign. I just say, when you see two consecutive signs, a plus and a minus, or plus plus, or negative negative, or whatever you see, two consecutive signs are illegal. You must choose one. You choose one. If they are the same, it's positive. If they're not the same, it's always negative. So in this case, I have a plus and a minus. They're not the same. It means I'm going to be subtracting because they're not the same. So this means I'm getting x to 9 minus 7, and that gives me x to the second. So that's my answer for that one. I go to this question. Remember what I said. If it's easy for you to just divide. What I would do is I just straight away divide these two because I don't want to deal with it. And then I apply the quotient rule to this one. Because you're dividing and it's the same base, I will be subtracting. It's going to be n to the power of 3 minus 4. 3 minus 4. That's it. What is 3 minus 4? It's negative 1. So my answer is n to negative 1. Well, I may leave this answer like this. If the question says, do not use a negative exponent in your answer, it means I have to apply the law, which is law number 3 or 4, whichever you wrote in your paper, is going to be 1 over n. Remember, we said a negative exponent means you're dividing by n. How many times? Well, the number of this. This negative means you're dividing 1 by it. And how many times are you doing it? 1 time, because this is 1. So this is 1 over n. That's your answer. Let's move to the next question. Well, the way this is, there is nothing to divide by the 4. So you remember, just plug a 1 in here and extract a fraction which looks like 1 over 4. Because actually that's 1 over 4. We could actually assume that this is 1 times x to the negative 1. Because that in reality is what it is. Every letter you see is multiplied by a 1. We just don't write the 1, okay? Because it doesn't make any difference. The identity element for multiplication, remember. So this is going to be 1 divided by 4. You separate it, and then you deal with this 2 with the laws of exponents. You separate your dividing. So that would be x to negative 1. Okay, you'll be subtracting the base, minus 4. So that gives you 1 over 4 x to the power, negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5. Well, if the question says, like this one, don't leave it this way, you have to rewrite it, then you could as well write 1 over 4 multiplied by 1 over x to the 5th, like that. So, because remember, I said a negative exponent means 1 over, then you just rewrite the number without the negative. So in that case, this will be, if you multiply 1 by 1, you get 1. If you multiply 4 by this, you get 4x to the 5th. This is the most beautiful way to present your answer. That's beautiful. Okay, now if you got that, you're good. If you didn't get it, you've got some time to go over it again. Okay, we got a long way to go. Let's go to the next set of 3 questions, and we will be good. So we have another set of questions on the board. Let's start with the first one. Don't forget, this is the power of a power. Remember, you have to note how many bases are inside the parentheses. So right here we have 2, we also have b. So you have to, both of them have to share in this power, or you distribute the power over them. So what you have will be 2 will take up this, negative 1, and this also b to the 4th will take up this, negative 1. So this has that power, this also shares it. So the 2 takes it up, and the b to the power of 4 also takes it up. So what you have left will be 2 to the negative 1. And remember the law, you multiply these 2, okay, the power of a power. That would be b to the power of negative 4. If the question says, don't use negative exponents, it means you have to convert this into fractions. Remember, every negative exponent tells you you're going to get a fraction. That's the meaning of a negative exponent. So in this case, this becomes a fraction. It becomes 1 over 2. And this becomes a fraction, which is 1 over b to the 4th. So when you multiply everything together, you end up with 1 over 2b to the 4th. An observation. You did not need to go through all of these to get this answer. you could have just put this, left it in parentheses, and just put 1 over this. That's what we eventually got. But I went through this to show you that sometimes this is not 1, and you may have to distribute to do that. Well, we're going to see in the other examples we're going to do. Okay? So let's see. I'm going to put a line over this. So, in this case, we still distribute. Remember to always distribute the exponent. So distribute the exponent to each of the bases. There's a base here 2, there's an x, and there's a y. So we're going to take 2 to negative 1. Then we distribute this over this. This will be 4 times negative 1. Remember the rule, the same rule we applied here. Or let's just do it straight so we can save time. So that's going to be multiplied by x to the power of 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. And then you go to this y. The exponent negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. Okay, well, you should be done with your work if the question says you can leave your answer like this. If it says don't use negative exponents, then you have to write all these negative exponents as fractions. So what will be left is that this will be 1 over 2. This will be 1 over x to the 4th. And this is still left as y to the 3rd. So if you compress everything, your answer is going to be y to the 3rd divided by, because when you multiply, remember this is over 1. So 1 times y cubed gives you this, and 2 times x to the 4th times 1 is 2x to the 4th. That's your answer. I'm going to put a line over this. Okay, I'm going to box the answer. Let's box the answer. Okay, the third one is this one. So you do the same distribution. This will be 2 times 2, that's x to the 4th, and this is negative 1 times 2, which is y to the negative 2nd. This is your final answer, unless you're not supposed to use a negative exponent, then you write this as a fraction. It will be x to the 4th multiplied by 1 over y to the 2nd. That gives you x to the 4th over y to the 2nd. Put it in a box, because that's our final answer. It's easy. Okay, so with this, I'll put in another set of questions just so you can apply the law. Okay, let's do it. Here we go. Questions number 10 and 11. So here, there's something very obvious. This is x to the 0th power. Well, anything raised to the power 0 is 1. So that's not relevant at this point because we just have to change this to become 1. So this will be the same thing as writing 4 times 1 times y to negative 2 multiplied by z to 3 divided by 4x. Okay, at this point, I think this 4 can take this 4 out. So we're left with y to negative 2, z to 3, and what is left here is x. This would be your answer, unless you're not supposed to use a negative exponent. Then you have to change this into a fraction, which will convert this into 1 over y squared, and you're multiplying by z cubed over 1, and you're multiplying by 1 over x. See, this x is under, you have to keep it under. And you're left with z to the 3rd divided by x y squared. Well, I could have said y squared x, but remember, we're trying to follow the alphabetical order. X comes before y, and you're good. Let's go to the next one. So, let's put a box. Try and box your answer so your teacher knows where your answer is. For some of you who don't present your work neatly. Okay, just an advice. Let's go to number 11. So in this case, well, I see 2 of these here. Well, that makes your work easier. Just go on and convert them into ones. That's 3x cubed y to negative 1, z to negative 1, divided by x to negative 4. This is times 1 because this is 1, and this will become 1 also. So at the end of the day, we have 3x cubed y to negative 1, z to negative 1, divided by x to negative 4. So as far as we're concerned, This and this don't have anything to do. This is also a number that's standing by itself. So the only thing we need to deal with will be this. So remember, when you deal with this, it's going to look like this. It's going to be 3 times. If you deal with these two, it's going to be x to the power of 3 minus, because you're dividing, what is the power of the base one? It is not 4, it is -4. So you're going to have -4. You have 2 consecutive signs. Remember that rule? When 2 signs follow each other, it's illegal. You have to choose one. And if they are the same, it's positive. If they're not the same, it's negative. Okay, so that's the rule I teach my students and they get it. If you have any other rule, just apply. Just get the answer, okay? And then we go to y to -1 and z to -1. So this gives you 3. When you resolve this, that's going to be 7. X to the power of 7. Y to the power of -1 and z to the power of -1. Well, this is your final answer unless you're not allowed to use the negative signs. And that changes your answer to 3x to the 7th divided by z. Because this is going to be 1 over y, this is going to be 1 over z. Okay? That's that. You get that? You're good. Next set of questions, and the final ones. So these are the very last questions I'll be dealing with in this video. If you have any questions that don't look like this, please just let me know about them, and then I'll help you out, and we'll see how we go about it. You can put the question in the comment section. Okay, let's get down to this quickly. So this looks really daunting. There's so many things packed all together, but what I would recommend in this case is to quickly make this simpler inside before you introduce that. Okay, if it's possible. Let's try and see if we can make this simpler. So what I'm going to do is put the numbers together. I'm going to have -2 over 3 together. You see that? And I'm going to put -2 over it. Then I take the next set of numbers. Well, it's a squared, a cubed over a squared. You can do that. So that makes things a lot easier. And you put over -2, and then you go to the b's, you have b squared over b cubed over -2, and then here it will be c to the 0th. Well, let's just write it out. So that will be c to the 0 over c to the 7 to -2. So now I've split everything according to their family, okay? So we got 4 families at this point. So in this case, I can deal with this. Now, some trick I'm going to show you, which I think you should get by now, is when you have a negative sign, what's happening is that you're flipping what's in the middle to become a fraction. Because when you divide 1 by a fraction, what you're basically doing to the fraction is you're flipping the fraction. You don't get that? Look at this. What is 1 divided by 1 over 2? Well, it's simply 1 multiplied by 2 over 1. You change the sign and you flip it. So eventually you're getting 2. So when you divide 1 by a fraction, you're actually flipping the fraction from 1 over 2 to become 2 over 1. So that's what you do here. Because this negative sign, when you deal with it, it's 1 over this, which means you're flipping this and you're retaining the 2. So what I'm going to do here, what I'm going to do at this point is just do 3 over 2. Because I flipped it and this negative sign is gone, squared. I move on to the next one. I know a cubed divided by a squared is just going to be a. Okay, so, oh, there's a negative sign. Sorry, don't lose the negative sign. Okay, so in this case, this is going to be, apply the rule to be 3 minus 2. That gives us 1. That's a to the power of 1 raised to power -2. Let's just leave it that way. Move on to the other one. 2 minus 3 will give us -1. So that is b to the power of -1. Retain the -2. Go to this. C to the power of 0 is 1. You could just write 1 here. But I'm just going to play with it because we all know the rules. It will all work out. So what I'm just going to do is say 0 minus 7 is -7. So I'm going to write c to -7. -2. Okay? Now we move on to the next one. When I square 3, 3 squared is 9. Negative 2 squared is 4, not negative 4. So the negative sign will now disappear because negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. So this is going to give me 9 over 4. Multiplied by 1 times negative 2 will be a to the power of negative 2. B, negative 1 times negative 2 will be positive 2. So that's b to the power of positive 2. And negative 7 times negative 2 is going to be c to positive 14. So I just need to change this into a fraction. So this a is going to come under and become a friend of this 4. So my final answer will be 9b squared c to the 14 divided by 4a. That's it. Let's move on. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment. I'll clarify. But that's it. Let's move on to this question. So this looks like you have to apply any laws of exponents. No, because there is no multiplication, there is no division between the two terms. This is just you're adding. It's like saying 2 oranges plus 7 oranges. How many oranges do you have? 9 oranges. That's your answer. 9 oranges. Where x cubed means oranges. Let's go to the next question. Well, there's nothing to do there. Now, this is what you call an exponential equation. Okay? They give you an equation and they ask you to find what x is. Once you see, everything we've done here has been simplification. What you have here is an equation because of the equal sign. So they expect you to find x. We're back to finding x. This is why it is important that you know how to solve equations. It is important that you know the steps you take in solving a 1-step equation, a 2-step equation, or a 3-step equation. So in this case, what you see is in solving this kind of a question, consider the 2 bases. Usually, one of them is a power of the other. For example, 4 is a power of 2. Okay? Not a multiple, a power. It has to be a power. It has to be that you keep multiplying 2 by itself a certain number of times and you'll arrive at the other number. So, because this is 2 and this is 2 times 2, which is 2 to the 2nd power, what we'll do is we'll leave this alone and quickly change this to look like this. And this 4 is going to become 2 to the 2nd power. The exponent that is on it is x plus 1. Okay? So, and it will be equal to this, 2 to the power of negative 2x plus 3. So, if you remember the rule, the power of a power, you multiply this by this. So, because the bases are the same, let's just write it. This would be 2 into 2x plus 1. So we're multiplying this by this now. Remember, you have to put them in parentheses because this 2 multiplies both of them, not just the x. Okay? So that's why we put in parentheses, and that's equal to 2 raised to the power negative 2x plus 3. So at that point, all you have to do, because this is the same base, it's like the same thing. It means whatever is here has to be exactly what is here, because what is here is exactly what is here, and there's an equal sign. For that to be true mathematically, it means this and this must be equal. So that's the equation you need to solve. And I'm going to solve that quickly on this side. I'm going to take this out because that really didn't take us any time. Okay, so we're going to go back up here and I'm going to write this out. That's 2 into x plus 1 equals negative 2x plus 3. If we distribute 2 over this, you're going to have 2x plus 2 equals negative 2x plus 3. Well, what I'm going to do is bring this 2x this way and take that to that side. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides. I'm left with 4x plus 2 equals, well, this is gone, 3. I can take this 2 away now. And what is left will be, let's get more space. We know where we're going. and we have 4x. This is gone, and 3 minus 2 gives us 1. So if you divide both sides by 4, you're going to get x equals 1 over 4. That is our final answer. If you believe in Jesus, Merry Christmas. If you don't believe in Jesus, enjoy the winter break. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.